She's an enigma wrapped in a riddle and cash that has been allegedly taken from the pockets of the victims of tragedy. With her husband and his firm under investigation and his so-called house of cards collapsing, the realest of housewives dropped an election day bombshell. She was filing for divorce. But was it due to years of mistreatment, as she said? Or was it really a sham meant to keep her hands on that precious cash to fund her lavish lifestyle? This week's episode is Tom and Erika Girardi, The Hustler and the Housewife, Part 2.
Bump in the night, your heart fills with dread. Probably a murderer who wants you dead. It could be a ghost, a demon, or worse. Perhaps you're the victim of a witch's curse. It's hopeless, you're doomed. You'd call a priest if you could. You'd rather just listen to who? Sinisterhood.
Well, I know everybody's been waiting for this information, but I looked up the exact brand of toilet that was $5,000.
I'm glad you brought this up because today you sent me the MLS listing for their mansion, and
Yes.
I went through all 42 pictures. First, I love looking at houses on Zillow
I know you
or
do.
Redfin. Love it so much. That SNL sketch, hard relate with Dan Levy.
Yes.
So when it's a opulent mansion like this, I was all about it. I only saw one toilet in the whole picture, and it looked cheaper than
Normal.
the one I have in my bathroom.
It wasn't even like the eco-friendly.
No.
It was just a standard issue Home Depot toilet.
So what is
this one?
What is this one all about?
It is a Toto brand toilet.
Toto.
It has been
Does it take you home if you click
It
your
takes
heels
you
three
home.
times?
That's right. It's been discontinued, but it was $5,750. It had a Cephantech ceramic glaze. I don't know what that means. It had a tornado flush system,
Oh,
which
hell
sounds
yeah.
like could take it down.
Yeah.
Automatic lid opening and closing and automatic flush, so no remnants in the bowl.
We have one in our house that is automatic, or it's not automatic open shut, but if you shut the lid, it goes slow. Like it doesn't just slam
I see
shut.
what you mean.
I really
It's
like
like
that.
Hydraulics.
Yeah, like so you can just close it and then it like slowly shuts. Yeah, so it doesn't slam into the bottom.
But it's not an automatic flush. You had to.
I
you
don't
had to
like
hand
those.
flush.
If I'm in a bath, because it flushes halfway through and then your ass gets sprayed.
Right up
I
on you.
want to
It's like
be able to control when I flush.
the unwanted. It's an unwanted. What is everybody bidet?
Spray back. Oh yeah, yep.
It
It's
also has an air
don't.
deodorizer. Say it again.
Said it's a but don't. It didn't even
but
make sense.
No, we had to stop the show. During the pandemic, several friends of mine got on the bidet.
I have several friends that
Kick.
swear by them.
This has a bidet. It has an e-water plus wand and bowl.
Ooh, wand.
It's a remote control operated.
What?
I don't know, man. Also has a air deodorizer and a heated seat
That's kind
And
of
a
nice.
and a nightlight. I mean, there's a lot of good qualities of a toilet. It just is it's extra.
I hope the entire toilet lit up for this nightlight. It's just a glowing orb in the middle of your bathroom.
It also has a personal bathroom soundtrack. I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's like, now we're talking. I'm really curious about this remote control because how much closer to what you're controlling could you be than if you're sitting on top of it?
Maybe it's a control on the side so you can control the deodorizer, or it's like on Ally McBeal when John Cage, the biscuit, had a remote control for his stall that would flush the toilet before he got there because he said he liked a fresh bowl.
Oh,
He didn't want to see remnants.
that, you know what? That's very smart. If we all could have that luxury, there is nothing scarier than when you're in a public bathroom and there's a half open stall door and you have to make the decision. Am I going to push this stall door open and face whatever is behind here?
Oh, yeah.
And
it's always horror.
8 times out of 10, you wish you hadn't done it. Mm-hmm.
Every single time. Or like the stall that people pass.
Mm-hmm.
And like they look and they pass and then I have to go, what are my standards? Are they lower or higher than this person's? But you always are going to pass. You're going to look at it and go, oh, shit, that's nasty.
I can't. Yeah.
So, see, there some of these features might be nice to have a fresh bowl. So
now
I wanted
someone
to
else will
pass
get
that
it.
info.
Thank you very much. And the house is listed for 11.5. So if that toilet's your selling point, then for $11.5 million, you could own it.
You can own their house. It's been reduced from initially they claimed that Tom claimed that it was worth $16 million, and then it was listed for 13, and now it's taken down to 11.5. And the Special Litigation Counsel, Ronald Richards, called it priced to sell. So they're serious.
That's very surprising, especially in the market right now where people but people are moving from California to here and paying thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash over because houses are so much cheaper for them here than they are out there. But I looked at those pictures in the property. It's huge. I think there's 2 pools. It's gigantic. The grounds are gorgeous. It looks like a resort. And I was very surprised that it was 11.5.
It seems like a deal for 11.5.
It does. Unless, who knows the foundation. You get in there.
Do they have those in, do they have issues with that like we do in Texas?
Girl, they got earthquakes out there.
Oh, that makes sense. I just was thinking of like the clay underneath.
Oh, probably
that we
too.
have here that just sort of shifts.
Or just, general things falling apart. I was always surprised to hear when people would go to the Playboy Mansion and then say what a dump it was. Like how it was just falling apart. I mean, back in its heyday, it was great. But then it kind of just things wouldn't get fixed and there'd be peeling paint and things broken. And for it being the Playboy Mansion, it has a certain standard. It's got to maintain.
You think it would be a little bit nicer. Mm-hmm. This one was built in 1928. So that is another thing to consider. Mm-hmm. What has and hasn't been redone. But it's got fountains and a pool and
gorgeous.
Palm trees. Oh, yeah, it is. We'll put it in the show notes. Mm-hmm. Breakfast bar, library.
Huge closets. Those closets were enormous. One was very empty. I was like, damn.
I recognize that closet from the Housewife and the Hustler documentary where she was saying, and then also from this season of Real Housewives where she said she has a real closet and then a side closet. Well, her real closet, I'm sure the side one is as well, were both empty. But then there were Tom's, what looked like leather man shoes in another closet. So his stuff is clearly there still.
Yep. Well, not for long.
I know. We'll talk about how everything's getting liquidated and what he can and can't keep and how everybody might get paid all throughout this, as well as what happened. The rivets or the divots in the system that allowed Tom Girardi to get away with this for so long. I do want to say a quick thank you to Aditi Prabhakar for my office stickers, which I loved, as well as my University of American Samoa Law School, my Better Call Saul t-shirt. I gasped when I opened it. We thanked her on our live Q&A for Patreon, which we had so much fun on.
So much fun.
We laughed so hard about F, Marry, Kill, Mothman, Frogman, or Bigfoot, and had a lot of hot takes on that. But I wanted to give a proper thank you on the air because I have worn that shirt repeatedly. I love it. It fits perfectly. It's very soft. And also, I feel like people see it and they think that's a legitimate school, which makes me laugh. I feel like it's an inside joke that only I know.
There you go. Or people that like the show, and then you kind of already have a special bond with them.
Like, hey, what's up? Y'all know I'm Saul.
Well, if you guys haven't listened to episode 1, I would suggest go back and do that because this will make a lot more sense. I know a lot of people save the first one up so they can binge. So if you just finished part 1, here's part 2.
Welcome.
Yes, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get into it. A 2017 article in the Daily Breeze reported that Tom Girardi's law firm, Girardi Keese, has been sued for malpractice, fraud, or breach of contract at least 22 times since 1995. Nevertheless, Tom's law license remained impeccable, possibly because of his huge political donations and insider connections to the State Bar of California and the state's judiciary. Well, when you donate millions and millions of dollars to people, they tend to kind of look the other way when you maybe do something they don't think's the best thing to do.
Yeah, they look out for you. And it's like the gentleman in the former LA County Bar president said in the documentary, the DA is friends with Tom. The police chiefs got his job because the people that put him in or her in charge was friends with Tom. The governor's friends with Tom. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court's friends with Tom. It's like, who are you going to report him to?
Yeah.
If you're a client who's been screwed over by him or, you know, that he breached contract, he stole money, whatever, who do you go to? You try to sue him and you lose. You try to make a bar complaint and nothing comes of it.
It's so defeating. And we've covered several cases where we see that. In the Kristen Smart case, you know, nothing appeared to be getting done because Flores's mom was the girlfriend of someone that was very good friends with the chief of police. And there's been other cases, too, where it's just, it's very sad. And things like that are why people don't believe in our justice system. When if everyone did what they were supposed to do, then it would all work out. But instead, greed and money and power get in the way, like with everything, and fuck it all up.
Well, and it makes me embarrassed that we have the same profession, that we're supposed to have these standards that we abide by. And at least if there is a shitty attorney or if there's a shitty financial advisor or accountant or doctor, you know, you see the whole entire system breakdown. That's whenever it's especially disheartening, like with Dr. Death. You see that not all surgeons are doing, you know, these horrible, incompetent / maniacal, evil surgeries on people. But when they do, the idea is you're supposed to have the medical licensing board or the hospitals or somebody looking over his shoulder. And then it takes finally one doctor, one DA, somebody to step up and go, everybody's just kind of ignoring this. And this is like a legal equivalent to that, where he was doing so much bad for so long and the system completely failed these people for a multitude of reasons.
For years, Tom
cultivated close relationships with bar officials that at times appeared improper.
According to the LA Times, this included throwing a lavish retirement party for the Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court, the person who was in charge of the entire state bar, all while Tom was under investigation. Most damning was his extensive relationship with bar investigator Tom Layton, who received expensive meals, flights on Tom's jets, jobs for his children at Tom's firm, and years of free legal work from Tom's firm, according to the LA Times.
Yeah, this article was a huge,
bombshell.
It's an indictment on the California State Bar, who's come out and said mistakes were made. I was like, okay. It's really minimizing.
So when that happens and you see that there's been years of people not receiving money because they just weren't doing their job and holding him accountable, can those victims then go and sue the state bar for culpability?
Well, the state bar is now saying all of those people that were in charge at the time of all these incidents no longer work for us.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah, they're, usually bar presidents or, people in charge are only serve a couple years at a time. That Tom Layton fella, I believe he left in 2015, left the bar. So you're kind of left with, we can't sue the people who really screwed us over for not doing their job. And also now there's just no recourse. I mean, they would have to just go after Tom.
They couldn't go after the individuals even though they don't work there anymore?
No, because they were performing in their capacity as, their bar job, essentially.
Gotcha. A deep dive investigation by the LA Times also alleged that as early as 2000, Tom was misappropriating client funds from a $128 million settlement with Lockheed Martin. In addition, Tom and the firm have been sued at least 45 times for legal malpractice or misappropriation, and are accused by at least 14 other attorneys for failing to pay shared legal fees, per the LA Times. During Tom's second divorce, his ex-wife's accountant discovered
indiscriminate and inappropriate use of the client trust accounts
to the tune of $9 million, but there was no corresponding bar complaint.
Yeah, it seemed like that the ex's attorney was digging through all the financials, or the accountant that was hired by the ex's attorney, and discovered that he was using the trust account as a piggy bank, which he's not supposed to, and just made that remark in a filing that was obtained by the LA Times. but that at that time there was no complaint of client misappropriation made by this accountant.
And he couldn't make a complaint?
I
Or he
think they
didn't.
could.
He didn't want to make a complaint?
I mean, I think they could have. You may, I mean, for the second wife, if she's trying to get as much possible from the community estate, you wouldn't want to wave a red flag and say, hey, Bar, he stole $9 million. You should take $9 million away, because that's taking away money that she could get in theory. So if the accountant and her attorney are working on her behalf, their duty is to her. I would assume that the attorney has an ethical obligation to report that to the bar. I don't know what, if any, there's some type of statute of limitations that, the second divorce was so long ago, because he and Erika have been married, 20 years. But I would think that attorney, it's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because your duty is to your client, but then also you found something that's reportable to the bar.
Yeah.
But it looks like he chose his duty to his client, which I think probably would be the right decision. But it's been 20 years. So
what really pisses me off about this is this whole thing is just set up to where it keeps the rich being rich.
Yeah.
Everything.
The system's rigged. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tom is stealing funds to keep himself rich. But even if that attorney is working on behalf of his ex-wife, who their main goal is to keep her wealthy, all of these victims are suffering time and time again so the wealthy can stay wealthy. And no one gives a shit about the little guy that they're supposed to be working for, because they just don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, now, hopefully, the bankruptcy trustees, they both appear to be working on behalf of the little guy, but it sucks, and it's sad that it's gotten to such a extreme point where now it is gather whatever assets we can and divvy it up as best we can.
Yeah, and they're not going to, people aren't going to get what they were supposed to get, and some people will get zero.
Or, versus just let's unfuck this when it happens initially.
And this has been happening for so long. If someone had spoke out, then people wouldn't have continued to go to him. But people were blindly going to this attorney and this firm because they thought they were the best, not knowing that they were about to get just bent over a barrel.
For sure. And I think a lot of smaller plaintiffs' firms would tap him to act as co-counsel on cases, almost like a ringer, right? You bring him in. It's the Aaron Brockovich guy. He gets triple-digit $1 million settlements. Let's bring him in, even if he gets half of what you're going to, if the attorneys share, say it's a 40% contingency fee, which I've seen in some of the filings that's what he did with his co-counsel. So say I'm a plaintiff's attorney. I find some people that have been poisoned by water, and I told them, hey, I'll take your case for 40% contingency. I'm going to bring in Tom Girardi. He doesn't get 40 more percent. He gets half of my 40%. So then we're each working for 20%. Even if I do 90% of the work, the idea is that I walk into settlement negotiations or jury selection and I have Aaron Brockovich guy with me.
Right.
So he's making, for very little work, he's making a ton of money. So, but then the problem was the settlement funds would go into his trust account and he would keep them. And that's what these other attorneys were saying. By the way, he owes me my 50% and he didn't pay me.
God. One of the many clients that sued Tom was Joseph Rui Gomez. On June 26, 2019, Joe and his family sued Girardi for conversion, breach of fiduciary duty, and breach of contract, seeking payment of settlement funds owed to Joe as a result of his $11.5 million settlement from PG&E for his severe burn injuries. In the documentary The Housewife and the Hustler, the family recounts how difficult it was to find a lawyer to take the case, as no one wanted to go up against Girardi. Eventually, they found an attorney willing to help.
It's exactly what you described, as people, perpetuated his power until finally someone said, fuck it. No, this is the fuck Aaron Brockovich movie.
Right.
That's the movie I want to see, is the person that said, no, I'm going to help you and let's take this guy down.
In April 2020, Tom and his firm entered into a stipulated judgment, agreeing to pay the Rui Gomez's $11 million. Tom attempted to pay that amount with funds from other settlements that were already promised to his lenders, thereby preventing other victims from getting their settlement money and preventing the lenders from being paid back. Prior to this, in October of 2019, the initial lender had caught and confronted Tom, quintuple dipping on his loans. At the time, Tom reassured the lender everything was okay, so the lender backed off.
This was kind of when everything started to, the house of cards starts to kind of collapse, because he was breaching his promissory notes to all these lenders all over town. Meanwhile, he had to concede to the Ruy Gomez's, you are right, yes, I do owe you this money. I've been sitting on it, and I promise I'll pay you. And then, so it starts to get, this is where they call it a race to the courthouse. So then people start saying, well, we're going to sue you. Well, we're going to sue you. And that tends to mean you owe more than you're worth.
Sure. If it comes out in the news that he was using the Ruy Gomez's funds, and everyone else that is like, oh, yeah, I haven't been getting any of my checks, and I've been calling him for years and to see where it is, I'd sue the shit out of him too.
Mm-hmm.
On July 14th, 2020, a ruling adjudged Tom's firm to be insolvent. Still, less than a week later, Tom was begging for money from his lender once again, stating in a letter that he was
in desperate need of funds.
On October 27th, 2020, the primary lender, CAL, won a judgment against Tom for over $6.2 million and won immediate possession of the law firm's property. The funds Tom had promised to CAL belonged to an injured father of two who was hit by a City of Los Angeles truck, which caused both of his legs to be amputated, as well as 27 victims of the 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting.
This is the point, I would say probably fall of 2020 is when it got so bad with where the money all started going that the bankruptcy trustees have said it's going to take us forever to try to trace, because money is fungible, right? And if you're not keeping it in separate accounts and you're not tracking it in some sort of accounting software, or hell, on a piece of paper, tracking what money came from where and where it's supposed to go, it's become this big bucket of money that now that's the whole purpose of the bankruptcy, is to go, okay, well, who gets what? And the only other person really besides Tom who knew anything about where any of the money was, according to some of the filings, aside from Erika, which we'll get to, was Shirlene Fujimoto, who was Tom's personal secretary for multiple years. And they're going to subpoena her to be questioned, because I noticed on a lot of the promissory notes he signed and things like that, she would notarize them all for him. And so according to the bankruptcy trustee and the special counsel, she's one of the only ones that can tell them where all this money went. Because even, of course, now they're alleging Tom has dementia. But, he said, I had all this money and I don't know where it all went. So because he's borrowing from one to pay the other.
Yeah. So with this, they're still figuring out who's getting money. So this injured father of two, as well as 27 victims of the Las Vegas shooting, still have not seen any money, and probably won't, considering the first people that get paid off are the lenders. And then the Ruy Gomez's, and then I guess there's a list of how it gets paid back in what order.
Yeah, and once we go down to the bankruptcy part, I can kind of go through that. There may be some hope. I was looking through some filings today. There's some hope that maybe some people will get some money, but it remains to be seen. Sinisterhood will be right back. Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores, offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, eye exam, and contact lenses.
Glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses. Sunglasses, progressives, and blue light lenses are also available.
The Warby Parker aesthetic is vintage-inspired with a contemporary twist. Every pair is custom fit with anti-reflective polycarbonate prescription lenses.
I am wearing my Warby Parker glasses right now, and I wear them every single day, and I always get compliments on them, and I love them.
When I did my home try-on kit, I actually picked the glasses that you have.
You did. You messaged
knowing.
And said, are your glasses called Daisy? And I said, yes, they are. And you go, I thought that I recognized these. Well, you have good taste.
Thank you. You have good taste. And we frequently buy the same thing.
That's true.
I chose the Wayland glasses in lapis crystal. So they're blue, which I'm very stoked about because my friend Kay wears really cool glasses in various colors. And I just always wish I had that kind of cool confidence. And now I do because of Warby Parker. I was able to try them on at home and see how I looked. And I could put up little outfits and show Paris and text you selfies, which was very important. So I could do that all from the comfort of my own home with the home try-on.
It's amazing. These are also eyewear with a purpose. Warby Parker partners with nonprofits like Vision Spring to ensure that for every pair of glasses sold, a pair is distributed to someone in need.
Almost 1 billion people worldwide lack access to glasses. This means that 15% of the global population cannot effectively learn or work, which is wild because glasses were invented 700 years ago.
Try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. You order 5 pairs of glasses to try at home for free for 5 days. There's no obligation to buy, and they ship free and include a prepaid return shipping label.
Try 5 pairs of glasses at home for free, just like Christy and I did, at warbyparker.com/creepy. This podcast is sponsored by Betterhelp Online Therapy.
You may not be feeling down and out and depressed, or like you're at a total loss. But if your stress is high, your temper is shorter than usual, or even if you're starting to feel strained in any of your relationships, you could probably use the chance to unload.
When there are things you can't tell anyone or feel like you can't unload to family and friends, you need to unload it, and that's what therapy can do for you.
BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to.
It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours.
Unload the stressors and get some unbiased feedback. You'd be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. See if it's for you.
This podcast is sponsored by Betterhelp, and Sinisterhood listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/sinister. That's BETTERHELP.com/sinister. On Election Day, November 3rd, 2020, Erika Girardi texted her Real Housewives of Beverly Hills castmates at 9:15 a.m., saying, "Ladies, I truly consider you my close friends, and this is why I'm reaching out to tell you that I filed for divorce this morning. Thank you for supporting me. This will be tough."
Oh, it's taken on a new life this episode, and I'm here for it. I've
been watching a lot more of her performances and interviews.
You've nailed it. Her castmates appeared to be in shock, considering they just spent 4 days together in Lake Tahoe and had only heard Erika speak kindly of her husband. Privately, however, Erika said she had been suffering, saying of Tom in one of her confessionals,
"The conversations that I used to have were now reduced down to a sentence or two. I just kept walking around that house and knowing that this marriage was headed down a really shitty path. I had to make a choice to do what was right for me. I couldn't live that way anymore."
So here's where things get a little tricky, because she files, and then conveniently she filed like shortly before the shit really hit the fan, and then he has to file for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean,
I'm not saying she knew everything, but I felt like she had enough knowledge to know shit was about to go down and she needed to get out of there.
Well, she wasn't as much drug into the CAL lender litigation, although she did assign them her priority, access to the firm and to Tom's money. But I would imagine, people are like, he kept all the money away from her. She would have known, which that's all well and good. But literally a month later, Tom is sued and she is listed as a party to the lawsuit. And I can't imagine that the day of filing is the first day that she would have caught wind of that I'm sure the law firm in the Lion Air crash, the co-counsel that sues Tom and Erika and EJ Global and all that, they probably have emailed them in advance, called them and said, "Where the fuck is my money?" Especially given that in the filing from that firm, there's voicemails from Tom going, "Oh, everything got mixed up. No worries." So they knew they were owing this. Tom, at the very least, knew he was owing this money for the Lion Air crash victims. But her being listed as her personally and then also EJ Global in a lawsuit that came out like exactly a month later. Come on now. Really, you're telling me she had no idea until they mashed file document on the e-filing system that she was going to be listed in this lawsuit? She was put on notice. She has a business manager that manages her entities. He's a CPA and does accounting for her and does all the payments and processing and whatnot. At the very least, that guy knew and would have obviously told her. So it's to me, I'm like, the judgment from 2 days before, or like 5 days before, and then the lawsuit that's 30 days after, she was not like blissfully ignorant, especially given she was stuck at home due to COVID. And she said, this is where the Special Litigation Counsel said that he watches Real Housewives. He goes, I don't watch the whole episode. I don't have time for that. But I have someone go through and clip out all the Erika Girardi parts. And I watch the supercut of it. And I get a transcript. And I use that for clues and where I'm going to look for money. Yep. That's how her Range Rover got taken away. The Range Rover she talks about.
Yeah.
Lisa Rinna's like, you got a Range Rover. It's so exciting. Yeah, that shit got taken away. It was considered a waste on the bankruptcy estate. And also, that's why now her landlord is getting his ass drug into bankruptcy court to testify, because she goes on Real Housewives and says, oh my gosh, I have this house. To that extent, she says in maybe episode 1 or 2, when she's driving around with Dorit in the car, and Dorit says, oh, how have you been? You know, how's COVID been? I've been spending a lot of time with my kids. What are you and Tom doing? And Erika says, oh, Tom and I have really reconnected. We have dinner together every night, and we've really reconnected at the dinner table and had a lot of long conversations. So I'm like, if he's stressed out and he's getting his ass sued left, right, and center, that would come up at dinner. You would think. As you're eating your steaks all the time.
From Morton's every night.
Also, this whole watching Real Housewives, I've ruined Paris because I made him watch the latest episode, and it was Sutton and Erika driving around in Sutton's new Bentley.
Oh, yeah.
And Erika's like, what is this, a midlife crisis? And Sutton's like, I think it's my midlife crisis car. And Paris goes, what, is she going to live to be 120?
Damn.
Fucking roasted.
Catty, I like it,
I
Paris.
know. I was like, I've turned him into a mean girl.
Turned him into a housewife.
I know.
In an interview with Us Weekly, Erika said that she thought long and hard about ending her marriage, saying,
this is not a step taken lightly or easily. I have great love and respect for Tom and for our years and the lives we built together. It is my absolute wish to proceed through this process with respect and with the privacy that both Tom and I deserve, which is why I'm on a reality show talking about all the details and showing you my closet.
I'm telling you, man, so many of these housewives that have huge white collar crimes that are currently in the midst of, they probably wouldn't have been found out had it not been for them going on this reality show.
That's what. So the Special Litigation Counsel went on a YouTube show, and the YouTuber said, "Do you think that the people's appearance, because the Shaw lady is getting arrested, and what's her face, Teresa from New Jersey and everything?" He said, he said, do you think do you think their appearance caused them to get arrested? And the attorney Ronald Richards goes, listen. The IRS, the U.S. attorney, they're not sitting around watching Real Housewives. He's like, and there's a new LA Times article, too, that speaks to this, and it's exactly what we talked about in the last episode. He said, I think these shows create this need, this impulse to do whatever it takes, and they're more willing to do crimes. And then that's when he said, and for me, now in my role as a Special Litigation Counsel, I can just go and look at it for evidence. So he said it may not cause the crimes, but he said it sure makes it easier on this end to go, oh, look, she's selling all of her clothes. She talks about it in the first episode when Sutton comes by and she's like, I'm getting rid of all my new all these clothes. And Sutton's like, why would you sell all this? It's really nice. Why would you sell all this? She fucking knew what she was doing.
Yeah. She's trying to either get rid of evidence or get some cash because she's about to be out on her ass.
Yeah, they're starting to seize assets.
Erika told her co-stars that filing on November 3rd was strategic.
I filed on Election Day because I wanted it to get buried.
She said she spent the 30 days before filing preparing to leave Tom, including closing her bank accounts, and lamented about leaving her 16,000 square foot mansion and her Lamborghini behind in exchange for a smaller house and a Range Rover. In a more vulnerable moment, she admitted how upset she had been that Tom never came to see her perform when she was cast as Roxy Hart in the musical Chicago in 2019.
Your wife that you've supported and funded becomes a lead on Broadway and you don't come to the show?
Furthermore, Erika said Tom did not regret his decision and became emotional, telling producers,
now you tell me if I feel loved. Well, we saw a video.
Oh, wow. Okay. In her defense, it was on the Wendy Williams show. So you're not on the Broadway stage where personally for me as a performer, if I'm on, a stage where there's a packed house, you might feel the energy more, you're on more than if you're, in a bar somewhere performing to people that are trying to drink and don't give a shit what you're saying. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It might be a little bit of a different vibe. That being said, it did seem amateurish.
Yeah, I mean, I would not pay Broadway dollars to see that, but for the fact that she's famous. So there was that. She kept looking at her feet for the choreography. She's a little bit stiff. The singing was like reasonably on key.
It was kind of one of those songs where it's not even really singing. It's kind of more like talk singing, where even if you don't have the best voice, you can still pull it off because you just kind of sounding sultry. Da, 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 da. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I also would not pay Broadway dollars. And to me, and I love Erika on the show. She's one of my favorite housewives. I don't think she's that famous. I mean, if I saw Chicago starring Erika Jayne from Real Housewives, I'd almost be like, that kind of takes it down a notch for me. It kind of makes it seem less Broadway worthy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you and I discussed it, and then I sent it to Lindsay Power, who's our theater expert, and I said, you don't know who this person is. Objectively, is this good or bad? And she said, I would say it's okay. She's like, she reasonably hits her marks and everything. And she's like, wait a minute, is this a famous person that's been cast on Broadway? And I said, yes. She's like, said exactly what you said, which is that means there's a more talented professional Broadway actor who's been probably in the industry 10, 20 years that doesn't get that lead role because this lady's on Real Housewives and, she's going to be a box draw because she's on TV.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's a slap in the face a bit to those that are trying to get stage time.
That being said, maybe Tom saw the Wendy Williams performance and was like, I've seen all I need to see. I'm okay. No, thank you.
That is a huge dick move and she moved to New York for 4 months and lived there to, rehearse and perform. I don't know if he came and visited her at all, honestly, because on the most recent episode, she's telling Sutton, I realized during that time that I was on my own and that I was going to be okay. So it sounded like he just said, fuck off for 4 months. And in those 4 months, you never could find the time to come see your wife on Broadway?
When you own 2 jets?
That's mean.
Yeah.
That's hurtful.
Yeah.
That alone would be enough for me to file for divorce, despite everything else going on. In a one-on-one conversation with castmate Lisa Rinna, the painkiller singer said that on the day she left Tom, she dropped him off at work, told him she loved him, and then went home and moved out. She didn't leave a note or tell him what she was planning to do. When housewife Sutton asked Erika how she's coping, Erika replied,
I have moments where I'm good and I have moments where I'm really lost.
Sutton went on to inquire if Erika and Tom had texted or spoken on the phone since she left. According to Erika, they have not, saying,
No. What is there to say? I'm sure he's very mad at me.
So this is where I have some questions. She says she dropped him off at work, said I love you. She says to Lisa Rinna, he looks at her and goes, thanks, hun. Like she was nobody, doesn't reciprocate or anything. Gets out of the car and leaves. She goes home, moves out. And then they haven't talked since. If he had no idea that she was planning to do that and she didn't leave a note, if you come home and your spouse has completely moved out, you're not going to try and contact them and get some answers. It's just like I don't buy that they had not discussed this, or at least if they didn't discuss it prior, that they discussed it after.
Yeah, there's no way he didn't at least call. He's a big fan of leaving voicemails. So I'm sure he called and left a voicemail and let, her know, hey, where the hell did you go? Allegedly he was cheating on her. So maybe he didn't care or was happy that she left. But yeah, it's like, I can't imagine that he wouldn't at least just go, where's all your shit?
Yeah, I think it had been discussed ahead of time. I don't think she just left and he had no idea that she was going to do that.
No, there's no way.
In the divorce filing, which cited
irreconcilable differences,
Erika is seeking spousal support and for Tom to pay her attorney fees. Additionally, she is asking the court to prevent Tom from seeking spousal support from her, according to Us Weekly. Erika knows this will not be an easy fight, telling Real Housewives producers that she doesn't expect her estranged husband to just
roll over.
And that,
based on Tom's 2 previous divorces, he's a fighting motherfucker till the end.
Well, this is, again, kind of like, if you know that, wouldn't you give him a heads up? Wouldn't you try and make it as amicable as possible so you didn't get totally screwed?
Also, wouldn't Tom have gotten a prenup if he's fought through 2 previous divorces? And he does owe, one of his ex-wives passed away, but one of his ex-wives, he still owes her spousal support.
Yeah.
And of course, because of all this lawsuits and shit, he hasn't paid it in 5 or 6 months. So he now owes her back spousal support of like $10,000 a month.
So the spousal support she's been getting has probably also been coming from these client settlement funds.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yep.
For his part, Tom has no intention of paying spousal support and asked the court to terminate the request in court docs from November of 2020. Us Weekly reported that he is also asking for Erika to pay his legal fees.
So she's right. He's a fighting motherfucker.
So would you do that because you're not the one that filed?
I mean, I think you want to cross petition or cross claim and ask whatever you can. So if she's asking for spousal support and attorney's fees, you want to respond and go, no, you pay spousal support and attorney's fees. Plus, this was in November 2020. He already knew he had $0, and he knew that he previously owed the Rui Gomez's $11 million. He owed the funders $6 million. So he knew probably that this next lawsuit we're about to talk about was coming. So it's again, the house of cards is collapsing. And I think at this point, he's living off his Social Security, which is $2,000 or $3,000 a month.
Wow. So when you file for spousal support, that's saying I am, what's the word I'm looking for? Entitled to a monthly payment from you because I supported you during your time while you had this job. Mm-hmm. Thereby, I part of it is I mean, like she said, she went to meeting or dinners and helped close deals by talking to the wives and essentially was his assistant and picking out his clothes and stuff like that.
No, you're completely right. Under California community property law, I mean, they had no prenup. So to the extent that his work for Girardi Keese over the whole time they were married, which is 20 years, created value that was, equity in the firm, she has a community property interest in that. Granted, do they say it's 50-50? That's what a divorce court is going to decide. But and then if they're not going to grant her, now this thing is like defunct, but let's just say that the firm wasn't going to be defunct. Instead of her getting 50% of the law firm, then she would get ongoing cash payments, equivalent to the amount of value that she generated for the law firm. So that would be all the stuff that would come out in divorce court normally. Now everything's gotten mucked up because of the bankruptcies.
On December 2nd, 2020, things began to quickly unravel when the Chicago law firm Edelson PC sued Tom, his law firm, Erika Jayne, her business LLC, and others for misappropriating at least $2 million in settlement funds from widows and orphans who lost loved ones in the 2018 Lion Air plane crash in Indonesia. According to the petition, Tom and his firm were
on the verge of financial collapse and locked in a downward spiral of mounting debts and dwindling funds,
and had been using
hollow promises, excuses, misdirection, and outright fraud
to avoid paying many debts. The suit alleged Tom embezzled funds from plane crash victims to maintain the appearance of
obscene wealth
and to fund his and Erika's
outrageous and lavish Beverly Hills lifestyle.
This is about as gross as it gets.
Yeah. It's, I mean, this firm, again, in their petition, they have links to voicemails from Tom as well as the transcripts. So he knew that he owed these people money, and he kept saying, oh, there was other plane crashes. Things got mixed up. This was the first Boeing 737 MAX crash litigation. So Boeing is located in Illinois and Chicago. And so that's why there's a Chicago firm involved. And that's kind of how this all came crumbling down for Tom, is that Tom was saying, oh, I don't know, like the money, it's coming. But what happened was, he's making all these excuses. And so finally, Edelson says they dug into it. And they saw that a lot of money went to Erika, and that they think that some of the money that went to Erika was partially these plane crash victims were entitled to it. So they just went ahead and filed suit. And probably pretty smart, given that they also were seeing that the Ruy Gomez's were filing suit, that the lenders were filing suit. So this is what you call a race to the courthouse. When they start seeing this guy only has X amount of dollars, I got to get first in line.
So who went to Edelson PC? Did the victims of the plane crash that hadn't received their money go to them to sue Tom?
Well, Edelson was looking for their fees, as well as to confirm that payments were made to the client. So,
because Edelson was co-counsel on the case. That's right.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
So they were working together, and they're pretty much, working as local counsel. And you want to get Tom Girardi in there because he's the big name. He gets these big settlements, and great job. But when the money comes to his trust account and Edelson goes, okay, show us where you paid these people whose mother passed away in this plane crash, and he can't show it to them. They said in their filing, we're not going to take our fee, which we're owed, but we're not going to take our fee until we confirm that the clients were paid, which is exactly how you should do it.
Yeah. Good for them.
Yeah. So Tom, is gumming up the system there. So they did what they had to do, which was file a lawsuit against him.
Mm-hmm. The petition calls their divorce a sham, intended to shield Tom and the firm's money from creditors. It is alleged that Erika filed for divorce in order to fraudulently transfer funds to herself and uphold her lifestyle. She supposedly spent $40,000 per month on her look and spent tons of money on their 2 private planes, her $250,000 Lamborghini, and a $5,000 toilet she bought as a gift for Tom. Most significantly, Tom's firm loaned $20 million to Erika's company, EJ Global.
Which I was reading the filings, and the allegation is that he did that as a loan because then you can write that off as instead of giving your wife $20 million, if your entity loans her entity money, then you can take a tax deduction and say, oh, I loaned this money, so I'm allowed to write it off essentially.
Almost like a nonprofit type of thing?
Not really a nonprofit, just saying I made this loan, and so that income, I don't have that anymore because I lent it out. I'm expected to get paid back for it, but she's not going to pay it back, A. And B, I believe the filing, from Edelson, which is that he did that to get it out of the estate, to get it out of his name, essentially, and put it in her little LLC.
So he can essentially just pull money from her LLC as another little piggy bank, and it's kind of under the radar. They can't come after it because it's in her company.
Oh, they very much can come after it, but I think they did it with the intention that they can't come after it. But I think what's going to happen when all the documents start getting gone through is they're going to see that this was all done in an effort to get as many assets as possible away from Tom once they saw the writing on the wall and that, oh shit, the money is dried up because the courts aren't open due to COVID. We're not going to be able to pay these people back. We're going to have all these judgments against us. We're fucked. I don't know that they thought that they would get, pushed into bankruptcy, but they, at the very least, knew that they had all these judgment creditors coming after them, that if you put money into, if you loan your wife money, although I think the loan was done a couple years before, but he's been getting complaints since 1995. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those where, okay, let's just put this in this other entity and say that it's a loan, an operating loan for her, music video, whatever, dance company. And that's a way to get it away from GK and away from him personally. I think the court's not looking favorably on this.
Right, sure. Following this lawsuit, a federal judge froze all of Tom's bank accounts, both personal and those tied to his law firm, calling Tom's actions
unconscionable.
According to the LA Times, on December 18th, 2020, Robert M. Keese, along with former clients and co-counsel, filed an involuntary Chapter 7 petition against Tom Girardi as an individual and against the firm, forcing both into liquidation bankruptcy.
It's kind of a rare move.
Why is that?
Normally, bankruptcies are filed by the entity in a voluntary, on a voluntary basis, but creditors can request an involuntary basis or can request involuntary bankruptcy if the creditors think that they're not going to be paid but for a bankruptcy proceeding. So usually they think, okay, this debtor can pay us. We see on Beverly Hills, he has all this money. We think he has 60 to $80 million. He has the money. He's just choosing not to pay us. Or, okay, well, we think that Girardi Keese or Tom has enough assets that if we could just liquidate those assets, then he could pay us. That's why you would force him into bankruptcy. And again, you see this race to the courthouse where Edelson's suing, the Ruy Gomez is sued, the lender's sued. So all these other people, which I think two of the people haven't been identified. I don't know, and I've looked in the press to try to identify who they are, but one is a former client, another one's co-counsel. So as long as there's at least three creditors that are willing to join together, they can go to the bankruptcy court and say, hey, we're filing this petition because this man and his firm owe so many people so much money and is refusing to pay, but has the assets we think are available to pay. Can you make him go into bankruptcy? And then the court, if you list off the reasons, then the court can rule in favor of the creditor and say, yeah, you're right. We're going to liquidate the assets, which is what happened here.
So is Keese getting screwed too?
It would appear so. I mean, I was looking through some of the filings, and frankly, it's not as interesting as all the stuff we're going over with like Erika and what she might have known. I think he had some interest in some real estate property as well. So that's the other concern, is that if you're co-owners with Tom in property and Tom's getting his ass sued off, are those then going to be, sold off? He also, his name's on the firm. Mm-hmm. He may have had interest in the building. So, and then the other co-counsel, they owe, they were owed fees, and the clients, they were owed their settlements that they never got. Sinisterhood will be right back. This summer is showing welcoming signs of a more normal life ahead. Finally, you can get back to enjoying life's little pleasures, like smiling at your neighbor, seeing a movie, and going to the post office.
Stamps.com brings the same U.S. Postal and UPS shipping services right to your computer. They make it easy for small businesses to mail and ship without needing to take a trip to the post office.
Print official U.S. postage and shipping labels 24/7 without having to leave your desk or buying any fancy equipment. All you need is your computer and a standard printer. Once your mail is ready, just schedule a pickup or drop it off. It's that simple.
Stamps.com is a no-brainer, saving nearly 1 million small business owners like you time and money. They offer deals you can't get anywhere else, like up to 40% off USPS and up to 66% off UPS shipping rates.
And with their Switch and Save feature, you can quickly compare carriers to find the best rates every time.
Stop wasting time going to the post office and go to Stamps.com instead. There's no risk. And with our promo code, CREEPY, you get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts.
Just go to Stamps.com and click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in CREEPY. That's Stamps.com, promo code CREEPY. Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again.
On January 13th, 2021, Tom's brother Robert, who is also an attorney, requested for the bankruptcy court to appoint Robert next of friend or guardian ad litem to represent Tom's interest. The request states Tom is aware of the bankruptcy filing, but
needs to be reminded often.
It also claims Tom
is incapable of realizing and understanding the repercussions of the bankruptcy filings pending against him and the firm.
And that Tom was
incompetent and unable to act for himself.
Robert said his brother
has short-term memory loss, often asking the same questions over and over.
However, this declaration is not supported by medical evidence.
They did supposedly have a doctor later examine him, but at the time that they made this, it was all just Robert's word.
Seems a bit convenient.
That is exactly
timing-wise.
That is what the creditor's attorney said.
The creditors opposed this request and pointed to an hour-long podcast interview on Schmoozin' with Feruzin with Tom from October 24th, 2020, discussing the intricacies of recent cases, off the cuff and without notes, showing he could
remember events from both the recent and distant past.
The creditors also pointed to a conference presentation Tom conducted on November 21st, 2020, where he was
cogent, detailed, and spoke with a good command of the facts and his surroundings.
Tom also continued to swear to and sign legal papers through November 30th of 2020.
Yeah, I watched this interview, Schmoozin' with Feruzin, and he's fine. He's able to remember the questions that were asked to him. He's reciting causes of action from cases from 20, 30, 40 years ago. He's able to explain detailed legal things detailed legal concepts that the podcast host asked him to explain. He's able to remember places he's been, people he's talked to. I mean, he's sharp.
Yeah.
The conference presentation, the creditor said they can provide a DVD of his presentation. I haven't seen it, but if you're doing an hour-long CLE, like a CLE presentation, the contents of a CLE, a continuing legal education presentation, usually does have to get signed off on by the bar, who say, oh, this is sufficiently legally intricate that it can count as education for other attorneys. It's not a TED Talk, right? You're not just up there saying whatever you want. So again, if he's up there providing significantly detailed, intricate legal jargon and he's not needing to be corrected or coerced or coached, that is a very rapid decline from November 21st, 2020 to January 13th, 2021.
Yeah.
To me, November 30th, 2020 is probably the date that they said, it would be a good idea. Let's just tell everybody that you're not doing so hot and stop signing things.
I don't think he's been on this season of Real Housewives.
I have not seen him except for flashbacks, which they do in like the gray. It's like grayed out, so you know it's the past.
Yeah. And he's always a dick in them. But
yeah, they've selectively edited him being like, shut the fuck up, Erika.
But Erika has never spoken of him having any issues. In fact, she talks about how he's so dedicated to his firm and he's always at work and he's just was born to be a lawyer. And, they have these meaningful talks during quarantine where they're reconnecting. It's not like he doesn't know who I am, and I'm just none of it
came up.
No,
yeah, yet I will say none of it came up yet because Real Housewives were only in like December-ish.
They're around Christmas right now in the episode, the most recent episode. So we'll see
the next 2-3 episodes. Maybe she does start to plant the seeds of, I did try to talk to Tom, and he just didn't know who I was. If everybody's working together,
that'll be interesting.
If you are attempting to make, if you make untrue statements to the bankruptcy court, that's bankruptcy fraud. It is punishable by fines and jail time. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do it. Also, don't steal a bunch of money from your clients.
I mean, step one. Let's go back 25, 30 years when he started doing all this.
Right. The managing partner of Edelson, the firm co-counsel on the Lion Air matter, swore to the court that in
numerous communications with Tom from March through December 2020, the possibility that Tom might be suffering from any issues that would prevent him from understanding the litigation or anything else was not raised until Tom hired counsel and was faced with the possibility of criminal charges for his conduct.
It's also so arrogant to think they're going to get away with this unless it comes out.
Yeah.
And there's always the possibility it comes out that he really is, has dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever. Right now, it doesn't really seem like that. So I'm going to operate under the assumption he's making all this up. And that's just so, as lawyers, you're like, well, we can get away with this because we know how to twist the law to make it work for us. And we're going to pull one over on everybody.
Well, I think if you are Tom Girardi and for almost your entire career, but let's just say the mid 90s, once he had the PG&E settlement, put a crown on his head, he was the king, right? The LA Times article talks about how he would host these lavish parties that he would just like nod his head and a judge would come running over to talk to him. He was kind of this kingmaker that if you've lived from 1995 to present day, doing literally whatever the fuck you wanted, that you could take money from whomever you wanted, you could screw clients over and nothing would happen to you. You were actually untouchable. I mean, at some point, his former law firm partner ended up the president of the bar. So he's not going to, all these people that he knows that either he put in power or he helped them get in power, you think no one's ever going to do anything
That's
to
true.
me. So why now, when your house of cards is collapsing, would you ever put your hands up? You're going to just go down in a blaze of glory and keep fucking around like you have been for the last 20 some odd years.
And you might even think, they'll know that this isn't true, but nobody's going to stop me because I'm Tom Girardi.
Or like, how could they prove it?
Yeah.
I got a doctor that'll say something for me. And let's just say, who knows? Maybe the doctor has been fooled. You don't know if somebody comes in and acts in a certain way. If they Google signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's and then start behaving that way so that the doctor would write them, that'll write them a note.
And if the family's all in on it and, the brother's saying, yeah, he just doesn't know who I am some days, I mean, that's an interesting and separate discussion of what do you do as that doctor if you suspect, I guess if you suspect that it's not true and they're just like with Munchausen cases, then I think you have an ethical responsibility to report that, but I don't know.
I went through a training at work that was dementia versus depression and spotting signs and symptoms in older adults that a lot of times family members would say, oh my gosh, mom, we think grandma has dementia because we went over there. And some of the time, possible symptoms of dementia are in fact because someone is massively depressed and untreated for it, which if your shit's getting sued out of you, that could very well cause you to go, because, that's the argument, right? Is that as of December 2020, the managing partner of Edelson has been talking to him and said he was fine. Well, in December 2020, that's when Edelson sued them. So when he's now getting sued again, Erika files for divorce November, he's getting sued in December. Maybe his depression took over and had him start acting in a certain way that his brother thought, hey, there's something wrong here. Also, UTIs can cause people to have signs that are very similar to dementia in older adults. So a lot of times if you have an older adult that significantly takes a turn cognitively and you're like, what has happened to this? Grandma was fine last week. Get them tested for a UTI because it can cause dementia-like symptoms. Interesting.
As far as loss of memory or confusion?
Confusion, like malaise, general, like basically what someone would off the cuff go, oh, wow, they must have some type of cognitive, impairment. They have some kind of, dementia. But then in reality, once you clear up the UTI with antibiotics, it clears up those symptoms.
Who knew?
Get Tom on some cranberry juice and antibiotics.
Right? That
check his urinary tract.
What's that over the counter? Azo? AZO?
That's right. Get you some Azo.
The appointed trustee in Tom's case, whose job is to gather up all the assets, decide which creditors get paid in what order, and then sell the assets to pay those creditors, asked the bankruptcy court to allow the state courts to decide whether Tom needed a conservatorship before appointing Robert as a guardian ad litem. On February 2nd, 2021, a California court appointed Tom's brother Robert to be his temporary conservator of both Tom's person and estate.
I think we know that California courts are pretty loose about granting conservatorships.
Man. Yeah, if y'all want to hear all about the latest on the Britney one, we're going to record that mini-sode right after this, and that's this month's mini-sode. And
there's going to be two of them.
It's a two-part mini-sode because there's so much to cover. Yeah. So I have a question about this.
Sure.
Why would the appointed trustee ask if Tom needed a conservatorship?
So the trustee, first of all, there's two trustees in this situation because we have Tom personally has been forced into bankruptcy and Girardi Keese has been forced into bankruptcy. So we got two trustees and that they actually kind of at some point can try to fight with each other because if the trustee on behalf of Tom personally is trying to gather assets, but really, in theory, those should belong to the firm. Then the firm trustee is going to fight with the personal one to they're both working on behalf of the creditors. So they agreed that before the bankruptcy court should make a determination based on no evidence, because it was just a declaration of Robert, that Tom needed a guardian ad litem, they said the bankruptcy court is not equipped to handle this. Send it to the probate court. The probate court can determine based on medical evidence or whatever if he needs a conservatorship. And if that's the situation, so be it. Then we'll stop communicating with Tom and we'll start communicating with Robert, who's his conservator.
Gotcha. What is a guardian ad litem?
So that would be someone that you would say, hey, this person does not have the capacity to represent themselves. Can you represent them, work on their behalf in the bankruptcy proceedings? It's a way I would think if someone did not have a conservatorship that the court could do that. But I think, honestly, if I'm speculating here, let's be honest, I'm not either of these trustees, so I think they thought this filing is bullshit. Go prove it to the probate court.
Yeah.
And then come back.
The trustee agreed to let the Ruigomez family have a superior claim on assets, but that compromise was opposed by two of Tom's ex-wives. His first ex, Karen, was seeking past and future monthly spousal support of $10,000 per month. Erika also filed her own opposition, asking to be paid before any of the other creditors, including the accident victims from whom Tom embezzled money. By law, both Karen and Erika are entitled to be paid before the Ruigomezes. However, Erika waived her rights to collect any money until Tom's major lender, Counsel Financial, was paid, in an agreement she signed back in September of 2019.
Yeah, so what we're going to now start to see is that all these people that are owed money start piping up saying, we're owed now first. And so the order is Karen is the ex-spouse. She actually has a lien on Tom's property because he owes her back spousal support. So she kind of comes first. And then anything secured by collateral would come next. So, that would be if their vacation home they have one in I think the Palm Desert. I think they said she said on the show they have 3 vacation homes. I've only seen one of them listed so far in the assets to be sold. They basically appointed a real estate agent to sell it. So say that was there was a mortgage on that, then the lender would have that house as collateral, be able to sell it and take the proceeds. So you have secured lenders. That also includes Counsel Financial or CAL, their sister company. So if we said CAL in one place or Counsel Financial in another, it's the same company. They just go by 2 different names. They call each other sister companies. So then they're also secured. They're claiming they have priority lien over Erika because they have this 2019, it's a pretty short little document that she signed in 2019 that said, I agree that California Attorney Lending has a first lien on any assets owned by Thomas V. Girardi and any assets which are community property. She gave away, so normally spousal support comes before all that, but she's not entitled to it yet because the divorce is pending. But she basically gave away her priority position in line, which, did Tom tell her she had to sign that? Did she know what she was signing? I don't know. But that's the other issue, is that she also wrote a letter on Girardi Keith's letterhead that was addressed to Counsel Financial, which is the umbrella organization for CAL, that said, it is agreed that any obligation from the law firm to Thomas Girardi, the estate of Thomas Girardi, is waived until Counsel Financial is paid in full. So even if he was dead, Counsel Financial still gets money first. So she really gave her spot away. And then it would be Ruigomez's and other clients that have sued Tom and gotten judgments against him before the bankruptcy was initiated, then any employees that he owned, and then any other clients. So that's going to be the order of money that gets divvied up. And
right now they'll just sell off. The bankruptcy courts will determine how much money, all of their vacation homes, their main home, their clothes, cars, jewelry, they'll get the value for all of that, see what it all comes to, and then just start writing checks.
Pretty much. So, and then that's the issue too, is they have to figure out in what order people get paid. They also get to keep some things, although it's not a lot. In California, you have what's called exemptions to the bankruptcy, where you get to keep your house. It's like $100,000. So they're going to blow all the exemptions. Like they own way more than what's exempt. Or normally you could keep a car that's worth $3,300. Okay, well, it's a $250,000 Lambo. Like,
right.
So then the estate's going to sell that off. They can keep jewelry and art that's worth $8,000. Okay, well, clearly going to be worth way more than that. He can keep a retirement account up to $1.3 million. I don't know if he has that, but that's kind of how it works in bankruptcy, is that when the bankruptcy is filed, there's an automatic stay, which means everybody to whom Tom owes money, the Ruy Gomez's, Edelson, the CAL lenders, anybody that he owes money, everybody has to stop trying to collect. They cannot text him. They cannot email him. They cannot ask him for money. That is prohibited, because the bankruptcy court, the idea of a bankruptcy court is that then everything just goes through one thing. That way you don't have the race to the courthouse where everybody's suing in all these different jurisdictions and trying to decide whose money goes where. It's a federal case, one single court, one trustee per estate, which is him personally and the firm. So everything has to go through that. What you can do, and what the Ruy Gomez's have done, is file what's called an adversary proceeding. So they had their they had their judgment from where Tom agreed, yes, I do owe you $11 million. They filed an abstract of judgment where that's where they tell the court, hey, we won. We want to collect on this judgment. Well, then the bankruptcy got filed. So now they're filing this adversary proceeding, which allows them to tell the court, hey, Chapter 7, the idea is that you pay off what you can pay off with the assets that are sold, and then you discharge the rest of it. Please don't discharge our case for the following reasons. So the Ruy Gomez's, you can go in and ask if your debtor is subject to Chapter 7. You can go in and ask the bankruptcy court, hey, please don't discharge my debt because he got it through fraud. He was breached a fiduciary duty to me. So there's certain federal laws that allow creditors to say, hey, I know that normally in a Chapter 7, you're going to discharge everything after the assets have been exhausted. But for me personally, because it was embezzlement, misrepresentation, breach of fiduciary duty, it was malicious, he injured my estate, all this stuff, they can list all that out. And that way, when all the claims get paid at the end of the day, they say, please don't discharge our debt. So Tom's going to be left with nothing. And so, but technically he'll still owe the Ruy Gomez's if they don't get paid out from the bankruptcy estate.
Wow. On March 10th, 2021, a forensic and clinical psychiatrist submitted a sworn declaration to the California Superior Court, claiming that Tom's
dementia impairs his ability to understand the hearing,
and declaring him unfit to attend any court proceedings
for the foreseeable future.
The doctor also diagnosed Tom with Alzheimer's. So, it could be true. It could be not true.
It better be true.
That could be said of a lot of things in life.
It really better be true, because you just swore in a declaration that he has these things and you could be held in civil contempt. I would argue that even though you didn't make this statement to the bankruptcy court, it was to the Superior Court, but you're participating or aiding and abetting in bankruptcy fraud because you're contributing to them to be able to say, oh, he doesn't know what's going on. So I'll just say that it better be true.
So if it is, what does that mean for him?
I don't understand why they're trying to make this claim, because he did what he did and he had the complete wherewithal and mens rea, mental capacity to steal when he stole. So the only thing I can think of is that when the U.S. attorney, because the U.S. attorney, according to Housewife and the Hustler, is already looking into this case, if he's charged with criminal fraud, which seems likely based on all his actions, behaviors, and the significant amount of evidence, that his attorneys would say, we understand, yes, he will plead guilty to criminal fraud, but he has really significant dementia. So could you let him go and stay in a retirement facility or memory care facility rather than sending him to jail? I think it could be used as a ploy to keep him out of jail, to say he's so significantly diminished, that he cannot survive in jail. It's cruel and unusual to put him in jail. Please just put him in a memory care unit instead. And, he can go stay in a retirement community.
Well, it also keeps him out of the court for right now.
Correct. Also, yeah, he's basically saying his brother and conservator is saying, well, he doesn't understand the proceedings, so he shouldn't be asked to testify, which gives you like a real long time to decide what you're going to say if you ever end up saying something.
Sure. A few weeks later, on March 30th, 2021, the State Bar of California filed discipline charges against Tom on 14 counts, including dishonesty and embezzlement. The bar has also put Tom's license on forced inactive status. Well, it's about fucking time.
No, you're right. I think the March 30th, the forced inactive status is based on them saying that he has Alzheimer's. But there is significant investigation finally into all of this going on. But based on that, him saying, he can't attend any court proceedings, they took his license away. So it's not the same as getting disbarred, but his license is inactive now, so he cannot practice. And when you go to his bar page, which we'll link it in the show notes, it's like huge red font, misappropriation of client funds. Click here to see what that means. Like, do not work with this person. He does not have a law license right now. So there's at least that to inform the public, I suppose.
I'm going to guess he doesn't do his own web design then.
Well, it's not his page. It's the State Bar page.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
I do like that about the State Bar of Texas is we get like little red lights next to our name. It's like my little red light, my little light is green, or you have one that's yellow if someone has pending charges, or red if they've been disbarred. So his says not eligible to practice law, and it says consumer alert. The State Bar of California has filed disciplinary charges against this licensee, alleging that he has engaged in a major misappropriation of client funds. You can read this charge, blah, blah, blah. So it goes into all that. But yeah, they filed the disciplinary charges on the 30th. He was ordered inactive on March 9th when he filed in Superior Court that he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, or his brother did. And then once he was, they filed disciplinary charges like 2 or 3 weeks later. Finally, since 1995.
So if he was found guilty on everything, if everything goes to trial, or then would he be disbarred? Like, at what point will they finally just take his law license away?
Well, so the disciplinary proceedings are still ongoing, but I think right now it's moot since he's on a forced inactive status.
On April 13th, 2021, the bankruptcy trustee asked the court to appoint a special lawyer to recover some of Tom's assets from Erika, as the trustee
believes that Erika is in possession of assets of Tom's bankruptcy estate and or has transferred estate assets to third parties.
Prior to the start of the bankruptcy case, lawyers for Tom's creditors wrote in a motion,
at every turn, Erika has used the glam to continue to aid and abet these sham transactions that have been occurring with respect to large transfers of assets from the law firm to Erika.
The motion also alleged
the trustee has received zero cooperation from Erika, which is consistent with someone hiding assets,
and accused her of
publicly dissipating the community assets by selling her clothes on public websites, flaunting large jewels on social media and on television.
Erika was also accused of creating a new company, Pretty Mess Inc., to hide assets in February of 2021. The court granted the motion and appointed an attorney specifically to investigate Erika.
Yeah, that's they're all now the sharks are starting to circle her as well. With this special litigation counsel that his whole entire job is just to comb through her shit, and she really does not like him, and has argued that he should be removed because he's a frequent poster on social media, which he says is his First Amendment right and he's allowed to do. And I heard him on the podcast speak very carefully, and he said, I'm only speaking about the other bankruptcy where I'm not the special counsel. But also, if you look at all the filings, they're fucking similar and exactly the same. So it was a very good technicality way for him to talk about one without technically not getting in trouble. But yeah, he basically said he said in another filing, his job is to investigate claims that the Girardi Keese law firm estate may potentially bring against Erika for fraudulent transfers. And is basically arguing that none of the other creditors can haul her into court on their own, because any claim of fraudulent transfers would be something for the bankruptcy trustee to bring against Erika to bring more assets into the bucket that then could be used to pay people.
In the last week of June, the bankruptcy judge ordered that Erika's accountant, divorce attorney, and landlord all turn over any pay stubs, bank statements, and any emails and text messages pertaining to her finances by the week of July 19th, and appear for questioning via Zoom that same week. Despite being in the midst of intense legal scrutiny while her assets are being called into question, Erika was spotted boarding a private plane on July 3rd. While it is unknown where she was headed, this decision is very on brand with her Real Housewives tagline.
I'm an enigma wrapped in a riddle and cash.
It's pretty bold.
Right on that private plane, girl. I mean, whew. I wouldn't personally do that, but...
Yeah, no.
I also would have stopped participating in Real Housewives the second I knew I was getting sued, but...
Yeah, I wonder if she's doing it because she needs the money.
That's what one of the things that the business accountant, the accountant is also, it's Michael Ullman, so it says he's her business manager and an accountant, and he makes all the payments for her and everything and receives payments for her. And one of the things they asked for is any agreements between her, Bravo, NBC, Universal, any parent company, whatever, and any agreements and basically any proof of money that she's gotten from them as well.
One thing we also didn't go over is that Zoom hearing that Tom has on the Housewife and the Hustler. I can't remember which case it was for, but he flat out says, well, at one point I had $80 million or $50 million in cash and it's all gone. I don't have anything now.
Yep.
To have, first of all, to not know if you had $80 or $50 million in cash. I mean, like those are like that's saying it was either $5 or $10. I mean, that's just
not the same thing.
No, you can't even wrap your head around that. To have that much in cash, but then to have blown through it all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bad.
Just for the sake of appearances, of your own greed. I mean, it's I suppose one gets accustomed to a certain standard of living and you just can't imagine life any other way. But he's about to get a real big dose of reality.
Yeah, you just don't look at your accounts, I'm assuming. Although with him, he was the only one moving money all around back and forth and saying, allegedly, that's what he claims. And then Erika's attorneys are claiming as well. They're basically saying she had no role in the operation and management. They said she has a 12th grade education. She's not a lawyer. She was not in charge. She wants as much money as possible to go into the trustee estate or the bankruptcy estate, because that's how she's going to get paid. And also that's how the victims are going to get paid. So, if whether she knew how much money, I mean, she may have only known, my EJ Global has $20 million in it. But again, EJ Global is getting sued. Then you create a new entity, which is basically, they said it's just a successor entity. So, I mean, I'm like 50-50. Did she know or did she not know? Or
I was about to say, so what do we think?
Yeah. So, I mean, apparently, according to some of the filings, they think, creditors and trustees think that Girardi Keese and or Tom transferred settlement proceeds to Erika. The Special Litigation Counsel has corroborated that settlement funds were diverted to her. He said that in numerous tax filing documents that Erika's company received, like we said, like $20 million, and she's created the new company after all the scandal. So is she doing that so that she can hang on to some of the money and try to say, this is my Real Housewives income? They also kind of, one of the big things that the Special Litigation Counsel pointed to in his interview and then some of his tweets was that on June 15th, her attorney that's representing her in the bankruptcy filed a motion to withdraw, alleging a breakdown in the relationship, which suggested that, maybe they couldn't control what she was doing. That same day, the Girardi bankruptcy trustee filed a motion saying, hey, no, we know we're not supposed to pursue anything in any other court but the bankruptcy court, but do you mind if we go into state court and examine Erika and her finances for money that she actually owes Tom? And suddenly, 2 days later, her attorney said, remember how we wanted to withdraw? We've changed our mind. We'll stick around. Sorry about that. And so the special litigation counsel made it sound on the podcast interview, in my opinion, that she was doing stuff she wasn't supposed to do. The lawyer said, she's not listening to us. We're telling her not to do these things. This is like an irreparable client relationship. And then when she was fixing to get her ass taken into state court because she owed Tom money, they said, okay, we'll stick around. Shit. Okay. She's since, from what I can tell, she's gotten a new counsel. I cannot tell if it's in addition. It seems like it's in addition to this counsel, but like half the documents I can't get to. So I'm kind of going based on all the things that have been public. I've read everything that's public, but also I don't practice in bankruptcy law. And it's an extremely specialized area of practice. So I called my friend Ian Ross Phillips, who is a litigator who does a lot of creditor bankruptcy defense, like creditor work, and was just kind of asking him about all this. And he was like, holy shit, that's a mess. How are you involved in that case? And I was like, oh, it's for the podcast. He was like, oh, good. I was going to tell you, don't get in all that. It's a sticky situation. He's like, I would not. He said, I am not envious of them, especially when you have a special counsel digging into your shit. That's bad.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think that she knew something. I don't know the extent to what she knew. I don't know if she knew how, like, legitimately the guy didn't get paid his 11.5 settlement from the San Bruno explosion, and this is part of the $20 million loan my business received. I doubt she knew the details, but I think she had to have known something to know to GTFO right before the shit hit the fan.
Yeah, especially because Edelson's lawsuit came, just a month after she filed for divorce. And again, I'm sure her being listed as a party on that, she had to have known in advance that whether they threatened to Tom, they sent her a special email letter, whatever, that she was going to get drug into that because they started digging around in financial records. So, it's hard because the one like smoking gun thing that I found was that September 2019 waiver of her priority, that's the one thing you have in a non-dischargeable debt in Chapter 7 is going to be spousal and child support obligations. She's going to get paid, in theory, she should get paid first. But for this waiver that she signed, did she understand at the time that she signed it that that's what she was signing? Or are you married to a super high-powered lawyer that sticks a paper in front of you and goes, you're signing this? Mm-hmm. There's not a question. Sign it. And then here's a letter we're going to write on your behalf that says you're giving up your rights in my estate of anything that the firm owes me to this lender. You're signing this. And so did she know that there was some kind of weird fiscal stuff going on? Maybe. I for damn sure hope she did not know, all the stuff that was to come. I hope she didn't know that it was coming from, she seemed proud of him, right? In the older footage, she seemed to say he fights on behalf of people that are injured. Is she that good of an actress? I watched her perform the Chicago number. She's not. But so I don't know. Either she's an extremely good liar or she was just married to a really wealthy man that said, you're doing what I've told you to do. And like you said, the paperwork in Girardi case was a fucking mess. I can't imagine a person like him that's really controlling is going to let his wife come look over his shoulder. People's like, oh, she was listed as the secretary of the entity. Okay. Do you think she was like taking notes at the meeting of the company? I highly doubt that.
He barely let her speak when they would go out to dinner.
Yeah.
Well, my mom, who...
Oh, yeah, I want to hear this.
Well, first of all, I got in trouble because my mom said she was very offended that I did not consult her before the last episode because she has never, quote, never missed an episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I did not know this.
Oh, my goodness.
So in my defense, I knew that she occasionally watched it. I didn't know she knew all the tea, but she knows a lot of tea, like more than that's even on the show. Like she's done her own research too. So I have to shout her out. And she thinks that she didn't know the full extent of it, that she maybe knew something, but not the full extent of it. And I agree with that. For one, I think he's too controlling and just probably doesn't think highly enough of her to involve her in all of that, to even give her that type of information. And then I think she seems like she's got a good, a good heart when it at the end of the day. She came from hard times, so I would like to think, maybe it's just optimism, that she can reflect on like where she came from, and she wasn't that far off from the same people that he's stealing from, so that she would not have stayed with him or allowed it to go on if she did know really what was going on. But I do think she had to have known something to file for divorce when she did.
I would agree with that. And also because the one big thing in my mind is that paper that she would never have, I don't think she would have knowingly signed that if she would have known that all the money was gone. She wouldn't have given away, because she then went in both the divorce, she asked for spousal support, and then in the bankruptcy court, her attorneys said, when the Ruy Gomez's said, hey, we want a priority lien, and then a priority place in line because we had this judgment debt. And then the lender said, hey, we get a priority place in line. She filed an objection and said, hey, I actually get a priority place in line. And the creditor's attorneys for the lender had to go, remember how you signed that thing in September of 2019? So either she totally forgot or she did not know the implications of that, because her attorneys filed basically an opposition when the lender said, hey, actually, we're first in line over everybody, wives and all. And the one wife said, actually, he owes me spousal support and I have a lien for it, which put her in charge. But then the lender said, Erika actually signed this thing. And her attorneys were like, wait, what? So that's what makes me think that Tom had a lot more control than she, because obviously, first of all, I don't think she thought they were going to get a divorce. Because she was like, I was going to be with that man until he died. Yeah, I bet you were. You're going to get all the money when he died. You're going to get that big ass house when he died. So if you marry someone that much significantly older than you, the long con is to just wait till they croak. And I don't think she would have wanted to participate in something that's going to send her to jail. Yeah, no, for sure. And so she's now said in filings, hey, because the trustee had said she's blocking us at every turn. We got to haul in her landlord, who's another attorney. And they basically want to know, how is she paying rent on a $1.5 million house in whatever, it's the place she was talking about in the first episode was Sutton, of like places that you would be willing to live in LA. Very interesting that she mentioned it, like not Hamilton Park. I can't remember, but very interesting in episode 1 of the season that she mentioned, oh, there's only a few places in LA I would want to live. And that's where she ended up staying. That's where she ended up renting the place from this other attorney. But they're asking for his records as well and asking for him to testify, because how would she have been able to afford a deposit? How would she? Right. So that's kind of what will all come out in the later weeks of July as her people. And then her attorney said, she's totally willing to turn everything over, probably because they know that the Special Litigation Counsel is about to dig through all of her shit, and she's not going to be able to hide. Yep. But we will keep our eyes on this and update as needed for sure. And there's still several more episodes of this season, so I think a lot more will come out on Real Housewives too. I think so. And she was, that's the argument of, did she file for divorce? Edelson says the law firm that sued him said it's a sham. She tried to post on social media, oh, he's been cheating on me, and he cheated on me with this judge. Right. But all the text messages she pulled out, it looks like the phone is from the 1920s. It looks like a rotary phone? No, but it looks like from the mid 2000s. I mean, it's super pixelated. The font, it's not from an iPhone. And I guarantee you they probably have iPhones, or at the very least, Androids, Pixels, something. Samsung, shout out. He's was a multimillionaire. He was not texting on a flip phone. I don't even think those things are supported anymore. So the photos that she posted in December to be like, Tom was cheating on me. I'm so upset. It looks like they're a lot older, although, like you said, the season turns as the season still turns. I did call Ian to say, hey, do you think any of these people are actually going to get paid? Because, you and I talked about that. What I did notice, and he was saying, are there pending settlements that more money could come into the Girardi Keys estate or Tom's estate? And I was digging through the filings, and yes, they were mentioning one that was NFL player concussion, that he represented multiple NFL players. So basically, when that money would come in from, if and when it comes in, because he had co-counsel on a lot of these cases, and the co-counsel are still working the cases from the bankruptcy filings, that say the NFL settlement litigation money comes in, then the NFL players will get their amount, and then the amount that comes in that would have paid back Tom would go to the lenders, and once the lenders are satisfied, then it would go to the victims that haven't gotten paid yet, down the waterfall that we discussed earlier. So hopefully the cases that he had, although it was quintuple, collateralized, hopefully as money comes in from old cases that he had, his portion will go not only to pay the people who his representation was pending at the time, but also his portion will then go to pay these people who, again, it was the worst days of their lives and he stole their money. He also probably has insurance they could try to sell or try to claim on, and I would say sue him personally, but that ain't going to happen because he's bankrupt.
Well, I hope that all of the victims in this get something, if not everything.
Yeah.
And it's awful, and we'll see how it plays out. I hope he's definitely held accountable now and sees what happens when the tables turn.
And she can't control what the producers and editors are going to put out on the Real Housewives, but at least according to this interview I heard with the guy who's digging through her shit, he's watching, and the rest of us are too.
And it's already been filmed.
Yep, so it's too late.
She what she said is already out there for everyone to see.
Mm-hmm.
We love providing Sinisterhood to you at no cost. So if you like what you hear, consider supporting the show by donating to our Patreon. We're a small operation, creating the show for you by researching, writing, recording, and producing it ourselves. Any amount is sincerely appreciated and helps offset the cost of making and hosting the show.
As a thank you, you'll also get some sweet perks like ad-free episodes, a Sinisterhood sticker, membership to our exclusive Patreon Facebook group for those in the Rolling the Airwaves tier, a special shout-out on the show, a monthly bonus minisode, and patron-exclusive video and audio content, including our Am I the Asshole? Relationship advice segments, Dear Sinister segments, where we give you advice on your own relationship or other life questions, as well as we're bringing back the wheel, you guys.
Mm-hmm. Bringing it back. Bringing back the wheel. You also now have the fun perk of access to our Discord server, where you can connect with other fans in real time and discuss the latest in true crime, share personal ghost stories, or just post adorable pictures of your pets. We'll also be hopping on occasionally and hosting monthly Q&As with Crowdcast, where you can ask us all your burning questions. And like we said earlier, this past one was so much fun. I think it went for close to 2 hours.
It was like an hour and 55 minutes because the app will kick us off at 2 hours. We laughed so hard. We had so much fun. And afterwards, we got on Skype to record our Bill Cosby breakdown on our true crime headline. So if you're interested in what the hell happened and why Bill Cosby is a free man who was like, I'm going to do stand-up and I'm going to do, like, nobody asked you to do any of that. Please stop. But
And we also talk about Allison Mack's sentencing for the NXIVM.
True. And so we hopped on to Skype and we're like, that was just so much fun. And we're just in this afterglow of having so much fun talking about why I'm real horny for Frogman. For our patrons not in the U.S., you also now have the option to pay in pounds or euros, saving you the cost of the conversion fee. Annual memberships for all tiers are also now available. Those that select this option will be rewarded with a free month of membership.
For more details on all of this and specific member tiers, visit Sinisterhood.com and click Patreon on the top banner. And make sure you stick around after our sign-offs to hear your shout-out.
So many of you have been tagging us in pictures of you sporting your sweet Sinisterhood merch. Keep those pictures coming. If you want to get some cool Sinisterhood swag like t-shirts, mugs, totes, and even clothes for your kiddos, visit Sinisterhood.com and click on Shop in the top banner.
The best thing you can do to help us grow is like, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. And please tell a friend who you think would like us to check us out. It means so much to us and really helps podcasts like us get more exposure.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Sinisterhood Pod and like us on Facebook at Sinisterhood. Christy, where are you at?
I'm on Twitter at Christy or GTFO and Instagram at Christy M. Wallace. Heather?
I am on Twitter at MCK versus the world and on Instagram at Heather versus the world.
As always, the devil rules the airwaves.
Keep it creepy. Hey everybody, thank you so much for supporting the show on Patreon. Here are your special Patreon shoutouts. Jasmine Deal,
Sarah Nasland,
Waverly Wolf,
Anne Eliason,
Jamie Sue,
Allie,
Sophie,
Tara Olivieris,
Ermac Genk,
Nicole Mick,
Catherine Youngs,
Kate,
Jenny Perez,
Sydney Nydecker,
Cindy Carter,
Jackie,
Amanda Dubbs,
Aaron,
Post-Punk Mama,
Greg Hurd,
Lindsay Ray,
Migo,
Amber Thornsberry,
Catherine Gilman,
Brianna Boydston,
Carrie Carver,
Krista Holloway,
Kaylee,
Skylar Cargill,
Aaron Conklin,
Bob Ferguson,
Selena Moon,
Danielle Kay,
Nora,
Hannah Rose,
Cherry Seifert,
Gabby,
Beth Rudisil,
Emily Alexander,
Jessica Nowabilski,
Christine Bailey,
Michelle Galvez,
Andrea Westmoreland,
Kristen,
Becky Behrens,
Miss Bama Girl 1995,
Caitlin Smith,
Athena Norton,
JC Popovich,
Ashley Johnston,
CT,
Sasha Keenut,
Kat,
Monica Blood,
Shannon Darehammer,
Jessica Crust,
Paige,
Judy O'Brien,
Tri Sierra Tops,
Alex Curtin,
Sammy,
Karen Hill,
Sarah C. Parker,
Cynthia Schwink,
Tien Renders,
Cassandra Thompson,
Krista Hordback,
Mackenzie Kate Cran,
Mary Grace Santa Cruz,
Jen George,
Laurel Stevenson,
Jenna Taylor,
Emily Ennis,
Amy Lane,
Jessica Trunkenmiller,
Natalie Golubski,
Rachel Thomas Miller,
and Kess Mason. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting the show. We sincerely appreciate it. We could not do this without you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep it creepy.
Sinisterhood.